State Department spokeswoman Jalina Porter has caused a controversy for a 2016 Facebook post slamming cops, saying in part the largest threat to U.S. national security are U.S. cops, not ISIS, not Russian hackers, not anyone or anything else. Joining us now to discuss, former FBI agent and Navy SEAL and the author of the book, Sheep No More, Jonathan Gilliam. Jonathan, what's your response to that?
Well, of course, I think it's ridiculous, like everybody else thinks it's ridiculous. I mean, look, if we want to just look at numbers like that, you could say that the Democrat and Republican parties are responsible for more people's deaths around the world than anybody else through terrible decisions. You can also say that Harvard is responsible for the deaths of more people and more destruction in this nation through bad policy because there's so many Harvard grads in Washington, D.C. I mean, the reality is there is a war within the inner city, and that war is not against police officers. That war is against learned helplessness and people around the nation that believe they have no alternative but to be angry, to go down a road of dealing drugs or a complete helplessness. And the fact is, there's nothing that's being done to stop that and help those people. And instead, what they do is they use division like this to turn and try to put cops in a bad light so that they can push out their agenda.
Well, let's talk about that, because how do you think this perspective affects their agenda, affects policy?
Division. They want division. The more division that there is in this nation, the easier it is for politicians to control what happens. Remember, the old Hegelian dialect, you know, you create the problem and then you can handle the outcome. And that's exactly what happens where you see all this division. I don't know if you've realized this, but over the years, and I'm not just going to say over the past 4 years during Trump's term, the Democrats, and they even admit it, they take full advantage of crisis. And the advantage they take is not to show themselves as competent leaders. They take advantage of these issues so that they can cause more division and then go in and offer a solution, which is really not a solution. It's just an opportunity for them to handle the outcome. And so I think that it's clear when you look at it that this is a cause and effect type of relationship, and this type of inflammatory rhetoric is not good for this nation.
I think you're referring to Rahm Emanuel, who said never let a good crisis go to waste, right?
He's not the only one who said that, by the way, but yes.
He's the one, I guess, he gets credited for it so often. Well, let's talk about the psychology that goes along with saying something like that, because it seems to me, of course, there are bad cops, but I have cop friends that say nobody hates a bad cop more than a good cop, right? You know that. Right. I'm sure you have that experience. So right. I don't understand why you can't identify the bad guys and you know, get them out of the force. But all in all, I need that police department there. I don't want to defund them. And I think that hurts Democrats. And I think they underestimate the effect that has on people.
Well, we definitely have a problem with the way in law enforcement now, the money and the power that has flowed into law enforcement, in large part because of terrorism in the United States and the drug epidemic. But I can tell you that from experience, there's no solution for the war on drugs or the war on terror. They've done nothing to stop that. So this money has flown into law enforcement and flowed into law enforcement. And the problem is that the training has never really improved in teaching law enforcement how to deal with the public. At the same time, nothing has ever been done by any of these activists to help the public become friends and allies with law enforcement. And I think that is where the biggest problem here is that none of this rhetoric solves those issues. And when we look at what law enforcement does, and, you know, I was in law enforcement, I can guarantee you I know more people in law enforcement than any of these people in the Biden administration, except maybe Hunter. I have a feeling he's going to know a lot in his future eventually. But I'm telling you right now, cops don't put on their badge and gun every day to go out and do bad. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in that job, because if that was your goal, you should just go be a criminal, because it doesn't do you any good. And cops are not racist. What cops are is they're raised in the community in which they work. A cop that is a cop in Beverly Hills is going to have different tactics and different aggression than somebody who is in the inner city in L.A. Why? Because the community is different. And that's where this happy medium of policing and community service and the community reaching out to law enforcement and coming together is a big part of this. But quite frankly, in this day and age with all this division and anger, I don't really quite see that happening.
Let me ask you, with your background, you have very broad background. What worries you? What threats are out there that people don't think about that you see because of your knowledge of intelligence and fight? I'll put it like this: fighting the bad guys. What worries you?
Well, a system where they're trying to get rid of those who police, first and foremost, that's very, very dangerous because, as we've seen, you know, a good example, the Lord of the Flies, the book, you can see what happens when there's a community that doesn't have structure, when it doesn't have any type of authority in it. And we have laws for a reason in this nation. And my biggest fear is not ISIS or Al Qaeda. I'll agree with her on that. That's not our biggest national security threat. Our biggest national security threat that keeps me awake at night, and I know a lot of people say that, but literally keeps me awake at night, is politics. Politics that will actually compromise the safety of people for an election or for a special interest. And that's a very dangerous thing. And these young people who fall right in line with that and who discount police and authority and respect, it's very, very dangerous because those people grow up to be adults who have no respect and don't understand law enforcement.
Right, right. Jonathan, thank you for your thoughts. Appreciate talking with you. Thank you so much for being with us.
You got it.